Transcription number 49. The credit movement in this country started in 1904 and it had its own difficulties since the last several decades. The main problem regarding cooperative credit has been that it has been untimely and inadequate. In 1904, the Cooperative Societies Act was passed, which was later amended in 1914. Then there were certain committees appointed and they reported about the weaknesses of the credit movement in the country. In 1919, this subject of cooperative was transferred to the states, after which several states passed cooperative acts of their own. Thereafter, in 1929, the Royal Commission made certain enquiries about cooperation and the credit movement and made certain recommendations, and till 1950 or 1951 there was very little improvement in the field of cooperation. In 1951, the Reserve Bank of India appointed the Rural Credit Survey Committee, which brought out its report in 1954. That committee came to the conclusion that only 3% of the credit required by the agriculturists in the country was being made by the cooperatives, and it was made certain suggestions. It suggested that there should be an integrated credit structure in the country and said that there should be share participation by the government in the cooperative societies. It suggested that the government should take shares in the cooperative societies so that the cooperative movement can get strength through government participation. The second recommendation made by the Rural Credit Survey Committee was that there should be linking of credit with marketing, processing, consumers, storage, and all other fields of activity so that credit will develop marketing, consumption, processing, etc. Yet another recommendation was that there should be a training program for the non-officials. The fourth recommendation, and the most salient one, was that there should be a 3-tier structure of credit. There should be cooperative societies at the lower level, then there should be district banks, and then the apex banks, and that all the three should be interlinked. These recommendations were accepted by the Government of India. This report also recommended that in order to implement these suggestions, there should be a National Cooperative Development and Warehousing Board. The Government of India have accepted these suggestions in 1956. According to that act, there came into being a warehousing board which took care of the warehouses in the country, and also the National Development Board which took care of the development of the cooperatives. It was first thought that the two boards should be worked out under two different acts, but as both the subjects were administratively under one ministry at that time, namely the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, it was thought proper at that stage that the same act should administer the National Development Board and the Warehousing Corporation. Thereafter, a separate department of cooperation was created and attached to the Ministry of Community Development, now called the Ministry of Community Development, Panchayati Raj and Cooperation, and it was decided by the government in 1960 that there should be two separate acts, one for Cooperative Development Board and the other for warehousing. In one of the papers submitted by the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, on the basis of which the presidential order to create the Department of Cooperation was passed, it was suggested that these two bodies should be administered separately, and that is why we have now come before Parliament with this National Cooperative Development Corporation Bill. The other bill relating to the Warehousing Corporation will come up through the Ministry of Food and Agriculture after the bill is passed. Therefore, sir, the present bill is only an amending bill, and opportunity has been taken to have some minor amendments made in the bill. Firstly, the original act covered only agricultural produce, and agricultural produce had been defined in that act. And now, besides agricultural produce, any notified commodity is also being included. If government wants to include any commodity for which Parliament is competent to legislate, it can notify that commodity and apply the provisions of this measure to that commodity. In that case, we will not have to come to Parliament again and again. Any commodity which is in the concurrent list and for which Parliament can legislate can be notified by government for the application of these provisions. The second amendment is about the functional committees. In the present act, there is no provision for functional committees. Now, this corporation has to deal with credit processing, marketing, consumers, and all these types of items in order to boost up the cooperative movement. We found that there was a lacuna, and therefore we have suggested a provision to have functional committees. It is only an enabling provision, and after this bill becomes act, we will have functional committees regarding credit, processing, consumers, etc. Then there was no power of delegation. Thank you.